Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day it is for you. We're here again. It's another year. We are talking about the Florida Christian Writers Conference for the year 2023. My name is Eva Marie Everson. I'm the director of Florida Christian Writers Conference, and on my screen over to my left is
I'm Taryn Suiters, and I am the co-director of the Florida Christian Writers Conference.
And she does a fantastic job. Today, we are here talking to our friend, Deb D'Armand, who will be coming to the conference as a faculty member for the first time. Now, I just want you all to know that Deb and I have known each other, as I say, since Moses was a boy. I don't remember not knowing Deb since I became active in the Christian publishing industry. So, Deb, that means we go back about a quarter of a century. It's a long, long time. But we have just kind of held hands off and on over the years. And I guess it was about 6 months ago, I was at a church in Southeast Georgia, walked into the foyer, and there was a stack of magazines, Mature Living magazines. And I picked up one because I'm mature and I'm alive. So I sat down, I started reading it, and of course started noticing names of the writers who I know, like, well, Bob Hotstetler. We love Bob. We love you, Bob. But then I saw Deb D'Armand, and I reached out to her and said, can you come to the Florida conference and represent Mature Living and maybe some other magazines that fall under the umbrella that Mature Living also falls under? So I'm going to turn everything over now to Deb, because number one, I want her to talk about who she will be representing, but number two, they are offering us a really cool contest. So Deb, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. Tell us a little bit more about you, and then tell us a little bit more about who you will be representing.
Well, as you said, I can't recall ever attending our North Carolina conference together that you weren't there from the beginning, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
You were one of them that actually inspired me to stick my toe into the fiction world, and I'm really that. And it's the one that has been the most challenging for me, but I've been blessed to publish 7 books. And it has been a surprise to me every single time. It's nothing I ever aspired to do, and it's something I love to do. And I will tell you, my connection with Mature Living came as a result of my first book, which was about mothers-in-law and daughters-in-law.
Yes, I remember that.
And they were interested in a feature for the Mother's Day version of their magazine that year. That was 9 years ago. When it was done, I was thrilled. They did a beautiful job. They have the most incredible editing group, and just the style and the, I don't know, professionalism of the magazine is really wonderful. Mature Living, as you might guess, is for those of us 55 and plus. But I also noticed later, after that first opportunity, that I thought they were pitching their materials at the rocking chair brigade, not people who were still active and running and gunning and living big for Jesus. And so I wrote them a note, and Debbie was the person who picked that note up and said, I think you're pitching at the most expansive group that there is. 10 years ago, baby boomers were all hitting that arena. And she called me about a month later and said, well, you challenged us, and we'd like you to write for us. And that's how it started. The column has had several different names, 3 names. The current name is My Purpose Now. And it really does talk about how, well, I'll just tell you that Jim Watkins wrote a book that was called If You're Not Dead, You're Not Done.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my, and so we've had some where I've researched people who are doing amazing things in their 50s, 60s, 70s. I have interviewed a 101-year-old woman. And the column now is My Purpose Now And it really gave me the opportunity to ask our readers to chime in. What have you done? What have you changed, adopted, thrown out? What are you doing for Jesus in this later time of your life? And it's been the most popular, I think, of the 9. In fact, they've offered me a contract already for next year, which I'm thrilled about.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They're just really, really lovely people. So when you called and said, I'd be interested, one of the things I immediately thought of was, that's kind of the place I got my start with mature living. And Debbie Dickerson, who is the editor-in-chief, said, I'd be really interested in doing that when I called her. And I thought maybe we'd get 1 or 2. But what she's actually offered to us is a column, not a column, but a feature, which is always one of the ones that are prized. 700 words or so, 750 words. And she said, why not do more than just 1? Let's do several. And so what she's offered us, Eva Marie, is that she'd like us to pick the 7 sort of semi-finalists, and she will choose the winners from among that group. But what she's told me is that if she has 7 outstanding entrants, she'll pick all 7 of them.
How about it?
It will fall in the Recollection arena, which is telling a story about something that made a mark on you at some point in your life that has continued to be a value of ministry support, of growing up in Christ. And not only will they have the chance to be published, they'll have a contract with $100 per diem. What's the word? Fee for each of those who are published.
Yes.
So in this group, it might be their very first published.
That's right.
As an author.
I'm
so
awesome.
excited.
Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the details and how you enter and things like that, your guidelines, etc. This is going to go on our YouTube channel, and so it's going to fall under the description. We'll have all of that for you. So all you have to do is, look below, and you will get all of that information from us. So Deb, what is it? Lifeway? Am I correct? Does Lifeway own? Okay, so Lifeway owns Mature Living. What other magazines, or do you know yet? What other magazines will you be representing at Florida?
Well, the only other magazine I've written for on more than one occasion is Focus on the Family. And they are very selective, and they like short writes. They don't look for much past 400 and 500 words sometimes, and that's kind of tough. But I've reached out to them and asked them if they would allow me to share a little bit about their guidelines and if they'd be interested. I've not heard back yet.
Yeah,
but
well, they actually come every year. So we have them. Yeah, so we'll have them there. We're excited, always excited to have them. But I mean, usually, so whoever, Jesse's coming this year, will represent Clubhouse Junior. So it may be that you'll be able to represent maybe the more mature reader.
That would be an awesome opportunity. One of the really nice things about writing for Focus was that one article that they solicited turned into 4 in-house interviews with their folks in Colorado. And that year, my husband and I had written a book together. It was the first book we wrote together. And I'd like to stay married, so it'll be the last book we ever write together.
Yes, I can understand that.
We actually won the award for the most listened to broadcast for the year.
How about
so magazines take you a lot of places that you never expected to find yourself.
Yes.
And I'm going to be providing them some opportunities as well if they attend a class on magazine writing about where to find those magazines. I have a list of over 1,000 magazines, Christian magazines.
There you go.
From cooking to tutoring to motorcycle riders.
Yeah.
And so there's something for everybody out there. And it can be lucrative if you find yourself a nice little niche.
That's right.
I've made about $35,000 in the last 9 years writing for magazines.
Just doing
That's
that.
not,
I'm so glad
Yeah.
you said that, because I think there's this stigma out there that, well, magazine writing is like subpar. I don't,
Yeah.
it's below, like you're not
Yeah.
really, it's not a book. So,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it's so not true. I mean, it's a full-time, very successful career for many, many people. And I am so excited that you're coming, that you're going to be teaching workshops on this, that you're going to be representing a magazine. And we have a lot of people I know, especially within the word weavers community, who love to write articles and they don't really know what to do with them. And they need that, okay, who do I submit to? And they need the advice and the expertise that you're going to share. So I'm very excited that you're going to be here with us this year.
Me too.
I am too. And I tell you that I think for me, my magazine writing came as a result of the books.
Mhm.
However, I really believe that the platform building opportunity with writing for magazines can help land you the potential of a book contract, because you've now found your people. They know where you are. They know what you write about. They think they know us. And most often they do. So I think there's a really wonderful give and take there. It can happen from either direction.
It can. One of my favorite books I've written like 45 now, but this is always going to be one of my favorites, is Reflections of God's Holy Land, A Personal Journey Through Israel, that I co-wrote with my Jewish friend, Miriam Feinberg-Vamosh, who lives in Israel. And that book came about because I wrote 10 articles for crosswalk.com about a trip that I took to Israel for, actually on the dime of the Israeli Ministry of Tourism. They asked me if I would come as a journalist. I said I would. I went over, met Miriam, and I, connected or contracted with Crosswalk before I went, and that's Salem Communication. And then I came back, I wrote 10 articles, and then it was about 2 or 3 years later that an editor at Thomas Nelson read those articles and contacted me and said, would you be willing to write a book, somewhat more like a coffee table book, somewhat based on your articles? And the funny thing is Miriam and I had been trying to sell that idea and couldn't get anyone to pick up on it. And so we just kind of let it go. And then because they were e-articles, I guess you could call them, this is an e-zine, they're always out there. And so, a few years later, they were read, they were spotted, they were read, and we got this wonderful contract, and the book went on to win a silver medallion with the ECPA. So, I love that book so much. It has such a huge part of my heart. And that came from writing magazine articles. So you're exactly right on that.
Husband and I have both read it recently on your recommendation, because we're headed to Israel later this year. And it'll be my first trip, his third or fourth, I think, to do ministry. But the book is fabulous.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, Deb, we are so excited that you're coming. Again, we're going to have all the details about this contest in the description here at YouTube. We're going to put it out to you guys. And do you know what the deadline is, Deb, just off the top of your head?
That was one of our interesting opportunities, because I've already signed a contract for 24. My first one is due in May. Sometimes people aren't aware of how far ahead.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what we're going to do is we're going to make the deadline. Debbie Dickerson, who is our rep at, she's the editor-in-chief at Mature Living, asked that we get them in, the finalists, get them in no later than the end of September. But what I'd like to do, Marie, is that, because I'm responsible to read them and send her those that she will consider as semi-finalists, I'd like to have them in by the end of July, so that I can go through and make those choices. Otherwise, we're going to miss the Recollection series opportunity. So keeping my mouth shut all that time about who I know is a potential winner is going to be tough, but I'm going to manage it.
Now, Eva, am I correct? Which there's a really good chance I'm not, but am I correct in assuming we'll announce those winners at the awards banquet?
Is that what we'll do, Deb? I'm going to turn it over to you. That would be fun.
We'll announce 7 semifinalists. Debbie will make the final decision.
Okay.
And as she said in our conversation last week, I'll print all 7 of them in the recollections category for 7 months. If you can send me 7 outstanding ones, then I said, well, you just make that happen because I know you will get them.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Well, we will then announce the semifinalists before the conference and then announce the finalists at the conference. How about that?
That sounds good to me.
Works for me too. All right, you guys, stay tuned for more information. And again, Deb, we look so forward to seeing you in October. Bye for now.